Welcome to Ghostly.
Is Tombstone, Arizona haunted?
Ghostly is a podcast that comes out every other week. Episodes drop every other Wednesday. In each episode, we take a ghost story or a paranormal event and look into its complete history. Rebecca then gives us evidence proving that the story is real, and my job is to debate those pieces of evidence and get you, the listener, prepared to vote on if it's real or not. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. And we're your host. I'm Pat, and that was Rebecca.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
We're here.
We are back at it, episode 101.
101.
Tombstone.
Oh.
So, Rebecca, what do you want on your tombstone?
I want cheese and sausage.
I thought you didn't like sausage that much.
It's okay.
Okay, well, I would do pepperoni.
Yeah, I hate pepperoni.
I had to get that joke out of the way because that's an old 90s joke.
I didn't know if you wanted me to go with the joke, but yeah, anyone that grew up in the 90s would know exactly what he was asking.
Yeah, exactly. But no, we are going to be talking about Tombstone, Arizona, home of the OK Corral.
Yeah.
Wyatt Earp.
Mm-hmm.
Doc Holliday.
Yes.
All of them people. Virgil.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about a lot of things, a lot of cowboy things.
A lot of ghosty things.
I don't know about that.
I can't even contemplate how haunted this town is.
Why do you have to say everything one word at a time there?
Because my brain can't handle all of the hauntedness.
Okay.
Like, we could do an episode on every location in this town. A separate episode on every location.
So this is kind of an overview kind of thing, right?
Like when we did Dublin.
Yeah, and on Ghostly X, we will be doing a couple more stories.
Yeah, just because they're just too good, and we just don't have time for them on this show. So we're gonna.
So if you like what you hear, go subscribe to Ghostly X. We're gonna do some shout outs. There are two ways to get a shout out on Ghostly. The first way is to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. We always prefer those 5-star reviews, but we'll read any and all reviews that we receive. And the second way is to become a member on Patreon. That's how you would get Ghostly X.
Yes.
Just go to ghostlypodcast.com and click on Patreon in the menu bar. We have a lot of different tiers to choose from, and they're all very affordable.
Absolutely. A lot of different fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But we have no shout outs this episode.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. You know what? If you guys give us those reviews, they really do help people find us.
Yeah.
And we are having a good time over on Ghostly X. So
we would
love it if you would join us listening over there. I like I said, this episode, it's too much. It's too much. So we're gonna throw some fun ghost stories over on Ghostly X, and we just did an amazing interview.
Yeah, we did with Tony.
Tony, the Chicago tour guide.
Yeah. Just end of story. Yeah, end of story. And he talked about Wrigley.
He did, because he has been there. So
yeah, he did a tour of it.
Yeah, for a tour. So
yeah.
So definitely go check it out.
Yeah.
Ghostlypodcast.com. Click on Patreon. All right, so I've got a listener mail for us.
Okay.
And this is from Erin. She's actually one of our VIP Patreon members.
She's so nice.
She is so nice. We love you, Erin. And she actually wrote to us a while ago about the New Mexico state capitol. So I thought that was somewhat close to Arizona.
Well,
it's that side of the country.
It might work for our next episode too, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. At the New Mexico state capitol, building services is responsible for cleaning and maintenance stuff, usually after the building is closed, 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. Apparently, several of their staff have had weird experiences in room 321.
Countdown.
Several people have been touched while working alone and then turn around and there's no one there.
Whoa.
The sound system in the room routinely has problems, even after being replaced. Security has reported watching the lights flip on and off repeatedly without anyone in the room. Clocks in the room will display the wrong time, analog. I'm guessing, so analog clock, even with the changes and new batteries. I don't know. Supposedly, workers on the floor above heard a scream recently from that floor, but when they went down, no one was there. And new hires aren't told about the haunted room, but independently tell management that they had something weird happen in the room.
Oh, maybe that should be part of their training process?
I don't know. I think she's saying that to ward off your claim that because they're told it's haunted, then that's why haunted things happen there.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much, Aaron, for sending in this ghost story. That was really nice. We always want to hear your stories. To send us a story, you can email us at info@ghostlypodcast.com or use the contact us form right on ghostlypodcast.com. Or one of our favorite ways to get ghost stories is in the actual mail. We love that. And if you want that, that is in the footer of ghostlypodcast.com. The address, I'm going to give it to you, but you don't need to write it down. P.O. Box number 264, Geneva, Illinois, 60134.
Yeah, and it's spooky season coming up, so we're ready for your stories. We want them.
And by the way, we are doing an episode every single week in October, even if it kills us.
Even if it kills us, yeah. No.
I mean, it probably will. I'm really thinking it will. And then we're going to do this as Ghost. Ghostly by Ghost.
Oh, well, let's hope not. But yes, if you are new to Ghostly, every October we pick a theme and we do a whole month on that theme and we do an episode every week. So weekly Ghostly is coming. Very exciting.
And this one is going to be especially haunted.
Oh my gosh. The best part about this is someone asked me about this particular theme just in general, like, hey, do you do episodes about blank? And I said, we are doing a whole month of episodes on this topic. So definitely exciting.
Absolutely.
All right. Are you ready for polls?
No.
Of
Why
course
would
you
we
are.
do that?
Come on. Every time you want to skip them, and usually lately you win. So I don't know why. All right. In our last episode, we talked about Wrigley Field.
Yeah, I love Wrigley.
Love Wrigley.
So let's not even talk about the polls then. Let's just keep going. Go right past it.
No, we can't.
Okay.
People voted.
All right.
All right. So it was yes. 33.3%.
Oh.
So no was 66.7.
I won.
You won again.
2 weeks back to back.
Back to back. I don't think there's a way you're going to win this week, but last week you did.
We'll see. And the overall rating that people gave it, you can rate each single one of them if you vote in the polls in ghostlypodcast.com, click on polls. You can give us a rating between 1 through 10. And 1 being not haunted at all. People get confused by this. They'll say, no, it's not haunted, a 10.
Yes.
It's like, what? 10 being the most haunted place ever. It got an overall rating of 3.8.
All right. So, I mean, that's not like not haunted.
Yeah. I mean, it was more nostalgic for me to do that episode because it's Wrigley. I mean, I grew up going to Wrigley. And
yeah.
Yeah. Even though I went to Comiskey a little bit more, but I always enjoyed my time there.
Oh, I mean, well, you know what? You go to Comiskey or Sox Park, whatever you want to call it. It's cheaper because no one else goes. There's
Rebecca,
always seats.
Come on. There might be Sox fans that listen. And if so, I'm sorry. You guys are having a tough time right now.
Yeah. And hey, if you guys, please go vote right after this episode. Go to ghostlypodcast.com.
It's free to vote.
And click on polls. And you can even see some past polls out there. So if you're going back to
I have not updated that in a long time. So
no, I just looked. It's actually not that far back.
It is pretty far back. It is, Rebecca. It is.
Well, there are. You know what? I mean, in case you're go back and listen, there's a lot of them out there. There's like 94 of them out there. It's all good.
If we take December off, then I am going to update it in December. I promise.
All right. So I've also got a ghost story for us.
Okay, great.
All right.
It's time for a spooky tale from Rebecca.
I am getting very annoyed with my coworkers. Every morning I come in and open and I find someone has taken Wyatt Earp's hat off of the dummy that it's on and put it on the table that he used to like to sit at every morning. And then I have to climb up and put it back. Of course, everyone denies doing it. They all swear that they don't touch it. Some have even said that I'm making it up or must be doing it myself. But Jody walked in with me the other day and saw it with me at the same time. So, not me, everybody. Now, Joe the bartender has been here at the Birdcage Theater for a long time, and he says that it's Earp's ghost doing it. I laughed at him. He said, once you've worked here as long as I have, you no longer question when weird stuff happens. I've seen things you wouldn't believe. Of course, he wouldn't give me any details on those things, so I wrote him off. Yesterday was the last time. I worked late and closed with everyone. I was the last person in this place, and I locked the doors behind me. Now we'll see. Oh my God. I just walked in, and not only was the hat sitting there, but so was his bow tie and the safety pin that is used to put it on his dummy. Closed. The safety pin was closed. No one else came in here. I checked the CCTV cameras on the doors. Maybe I need to talk more to Joe. Seems like Wyatt wants to come claim his space.
Wow. So this is totally made up stuff, right?
Actually, this is based on a story that the owner of the theater / museum / bar / whatever it is, it's like everything, has told.
Yeah. Was that the place that used to be a brothel?
Yes.
Oh,
with
okay.
the women in cages up above and whatever.
No, those are go-go dancers. That's something else.
No,
Rebecca.
that's what they had. That's why they're
the bird cages.
The bird cages, yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, he says that when he comes in the mornings, he'll find Wyatt Earp's hat where on the table that he used to like to sit at, and then one day he found this bow tie too.
Wow.
So, anyways, I just thought it was not a big story, but kind of a fun one to hear.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we return, we will get to the history.
Pat, what do creepy stories, funny ghost memes, and inside ghostly information have in common?
My life.
Well, yes, but no, it's also Ghostly Society on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that too, of course. But aren't all ghostly listeners in Ghostly Society?
Not yet.
What? I mean, that means that they're missing out on all my jokes.
Yeah, they are. And missing out on chatting and sharing with other listeners and us, of course.
We love talking to our listeners. If you haven't yet, you should consider joining our private group on Facebook called Ghostly Society.
Let's hope now they will.
Unless they're a woman in white.
Uh-oh.
Pat's facts. From a skeptic point of view. Pat's facts. He presents it all to you. Pat's facts.
All right, we're back with the Pat Facts.
Pat Facts!
The Pat Facts are sponsored by Tarot by Ta.
Ta is a professional tarot card reader with over 20 years of experience.
He reads at numerous public events, private parties, and personal appointments throughout the greater Chicagoland area.
He also does his readings worldwide using online services like Zoom.
And the best part of it, Rebecca, is that he is #Team Skeptic. So to find out more about Ta, visit and like his Facebook page at facebook.com/Tarot by Ta. Jason's a great guy. We love working with him, and we're glad to have him as a sponsor.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, we're just going to get right into the Pat Facts because this is going to be kind of long here. So we're just going to get into it, okay?
All right, let's dive in.
So I got a lot of this stuff from the tombstonechamber.com.
Oh, okay. So like the actual like city chamber.
That's what I was thinking. I'm not sure if it is, but that's what I was thinking. But I will say that they have a lot of misspellings and stuff on there, so I don't know.
All
right. But in 1877, the city of Tombstone was founded by Ed Schieffelin.
Okay. There's some hauntings associated with that last name.
Oh, okay. Well, he was like the first real resident there.
Okay.
At the time, there was a scouting voyage in Tombstone against the Chiricahua Apaches. Ed was part of this mission and was staying at the place called Camp Huachuca. During his stay, he would leave the camp to look for rocks within the wilderness, despite the fact that fellow soldiers at his camp warned him not to.
Ooh.
So the soldiers told him that he wouldn't find stones out in the wilderness, and he would only eventually find his own tombstone.
Aha.
Fortunately for Ed, he did not find his tombstone, but he did find something else. Silver.
Silver.
Yeah. So taking the advice his fellow soldiers gave him, his very first mine was named the Tombstone.
Nice. I like
which
it.
I don't know if I would want to work in the Tombstone. But word quickly spread about his silver strike. It wasn't long before homesteaders, cowboys, prospectors, lawyers, business people, and gunmen headed to the area.
Gunmen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Known as Goose Flats back then. A town site was situated near the mines in 1879 and was named Tombstone due to the first claim of silver mining by Ed Schieffelin. The population in Tombstone increased to approximately 7,500 by the mid-1880s. However, this figure only consisted of the white males over the age of 20 that were registered to vote.
Of course.
The figure that consists of women, children, and other ethnicities, the population was at least 15,000 and possibly as much as 20,000. Tombstone was considered to be between San Francisco and St. Louis as the fastest populating city.
Wow.
Tombstone was home to more than 100 saloons, a multitude of eateries, a huge red light district, which we're going to talk a little bit about, and a large population of Chinese people, which they did not account in those numbers, newspapers, churches, schools, and one of the original Arizona community swimming pools, which is still being used today.
Wow. Hopefully they've changed the water.
Probably not. No. Water is scarce there. It's Arizona.
That's true, yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. No, they probably did. So the one thing I want to make note of right away is that Tombstone is just 30 miles from the Mexican border.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah. Well, you know it now.
Okay.
And that makes a lot more sense when you start thinking about some of the things that transpired there.
Okay.
So things were not exactly hunky-dory in Tombstone.
Come on. I mean, there was silver. What would be the problem?
Yeah, well, that was probably some of the problem right there.
Yeah.
Since it was such a fast-growing city, it wasn't always easy to keep the lawless out of the area. Also, while the people doing the mining were either Confederate sympathizers or Democrats from southern states, the people who owned the mines, the townspeople, and the city lawmen were largely Republicans from northern states. Also, there was conflicts over resources.
Wow. So this was kind of like, this is a place to make money, so everyone shows up, but everyone is definitely different people.
Yeah, you got to remember, this is after the Civil War, you know, there were some people that didn't exactly agree with how things went.
That's true. And because, I mean, certainly not that long after.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there were also people that looked to benefit from the rising population by smuggling in stolen cattle, alcohol, and tobacco across the border, where Mexico would tax these products going into the U.S. So because it was only 30 miles away, they were easily able to do that in a day on horseback.
Wow.
Yeah. Many of these crimes were carried out by outlaws that went by the name cowboys.
Okay.
It's cowboys.
Cowboys.
Yeah, not cowboys.
Okay.
Yeah. they were not exactly a gang, but mostly a group of friends that helped each other out when they had larger schemes in mind.
So it's interesting. So like cowboys were like the bad guys. Is that what you're saying?
The cowboys were, yes.
Oh, okay.
Not the cowboys, the cowboys.
Oh, okay.
There's a hyphen in there.
There's a hyphen. Okay, so that helps because an article that I was reading said something about, but it didn't have the hyphen, but it was just like, like cowboys were the the ones causing the trouble. And I was like, that seems a bit of a broad stroke. Like, I feel like there were cowboys that were just working, they weren't necessarily all bad. So, all right.
No, but they called themselves, the county name and then
Gotcha.
cowboys.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
So the San Francisco Examiner wrote in an editorial,
cowboys are the most reckless class of outlaws in that wild country, infinitely worse than the ordinary robber.
Yeah, so they were pretty bad, huh?
Okay.
So this is where things would start to get interesting. If I just let the story play out from here.
Okay.
But we're going to go back in time a little bit because we need to talk about the Earps.
The Earps.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just focus more on Wyatt.
That's the name people know.
Yeah, I mean Wyatt was the most popular of them, although Virgil did a lot too.
Oh yeah. I saw his name.
Some would argue that he was a better lawman.
Oh yes.
Than Wyatt was. So Wyatt Barry Stapp Earp was born on March 19th, 1848. He was the fourth child of Nicholas Porter Earp and his second wife, Virginia Ann Cooksey. Wyatt had 7 full siblings: James, Virgil, Martha, Morgan, Warren, Virginia, and Adela, and an elder half-brother, Newton, from his father's first marriage.
Okay, lots of siblings.
All right. So his birthplace is kind of contested.
Oh.
It's more just the address. But there's strong evidence that he was born in Illinois.
Yay, there we go.
We got our Chicago connection there.
Always got to have that.
But shortly after his birth, his family was supposed to move to California, but during the move, Martha got sick. So they ended up moving just 150 miles to Iowa.
Okay.
Where she perished.
Oh.
Yeah. Newton, James, and Virgil joined the Union Army on November 11th, 1861. So they were fighting for the North.
Okay.
So it's important to remember because remember in Tombstone, it was a lot of Southerners there that were Confederate sympathizers.
Gotcha.
Their father was busy recruiting and drilling local companies. So Wyatt and his 2 younger brothers, Morgan and Warren, were left in charge of tending 80 acres of corn.
Wow.
We have a lot of corn in Illinois.
We do, and Iowa does as well.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. Wyatt was only 13 years old, too young to enlist, but he did try on several occasions to run away and join the army. Each time his father found him and brought him home. James was severely wounded in Missouri and returned home in the summer of 1863. Newton and Virgil fought several battles in Missouri, Mississippi, and Tennessee, and later followed the family to California.
Okay.
They moved around a lot.
Sounds like it.
I'm not going to go over every single detail of their moves because it is a lot.
Yeah, that's not the focus. I gotcha.
Wyatt became a teamster where he drove cargo all over the place. His family had finally made their way to California, but then moved to Lamar, Missouri.
Wow. I mean, it's not like moving at that time was so easy to do.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to remember, though, California was not what it is today, too. So
yeah, that was definitely out there, yeah.
Wyatt joined the family where his father was the local constable and then eventually became the justice of the peace, and Wyatt took over as constable.
Ah, okay.
So that's where he starts his lawman kind of thing going on. In 1870, Wyatt married Urilla Sutherland, related to Kiefer Sutherland?
Oh, probably, obviously.
Yeah, probably.
Obviously.
But Urilla passed shortly after they got married.
Oh.
Wyatt moved a lot, becoming a deputy in a lot of these locations. One of those locations he lived in was with his brother James, and that was in Kansas.
Okay.
I think it was Wichita, where they operated a brothel. So Wyatt may or may not have been a pimp.
Oh, no. Come on.
But historians called him more of an enforcer or a bouncer for the brothel.
So he's the lawman and the brothel bouncer.
Yeah, but it was not against the law then. So
Yeah, gotcha.
brothel was an official and established business.
And actually, like today, like a lot of off-duty police officers will work security.
At brothels?
Well, not at brothels, but I just mean,
Yeah. They do, yeah. In 1875, Wyatt moved to Dodge City, Kansas, and was appointed assistant marshal. U.S. Marshals.
Yeah, okay.
He ended up having a common law marriage with a prostitute named Maddie Blaylock.
Okay.
On a case to find Dave Rudabaugh, who was a train robber, is when Wyatt officially first met Doc Holliday, who was a gambler, and gave him tips on where he was located at. And there's countless stories of Doc Holliday actually supporting Wyatt in a lot of things that he did.
Okay.
Like one time he was surrounded by men with guns, and Doc Holliday was playing poker there, and he whipped out his gun, put it to one of the people's heads, and, saved them.
Wow.
Yeah. So Wyatt had made a name being a peace officer, a deputy, and a marshal, but also so did his brother Virgil, who wrote to Wyatt telling him about the silver mining boomtown of Tombstone.
Aha.
This is where it all comes together.
Okay.
Virgil became the deputy of Tombstone. So Wyatt, Virgil, and James traveled to Tombstone. Wyatt originally wanted to start a stagecoach business, but found that there were already 2 stagecoach businesses in town.
Oh, we can't have 3.
Yeah, well, in a town of 4,000 to 10,000 people, you don't need that many stagecoaches. So he decided to get into gambling.
Excellent.
Yeah. Morgan, Wyatt's younger brother, moved to Tombstone in 1880. Oh, by the way, James worked as a bartender.
Okay.
In one of the bars there, one of the saloons. Doc Holliday had amassed $40,000 in gambling money, which was like having over $1 million in today's money.
Wow, he's a good gambler.
Yeah, so he moved over there to Tombstone as well. Virgil had his hands full. And after a shootout with the Cowboys, on March 15th, 1881, he deputized Wyatt and Morgan. And they pursued the Cowboys that were suspected to have been involved with the shootout.
Okay.
So this led to the shootout at the OK Corral, the most famous one that everybody heard of.
Yeah.
Yeah, which wasn't at all at the OK Corral, but it was at a vacant lot owned by a photographer, C.S. Fly, kind of close to the OK Corral, but it wasn't there.
So is it just that it sounded cooler to say like there was a gunfight at the OK Corral versus there was a gunfight at the vacant lot owned by photographer C.S. Fly?
Well, I think if you said it was at the OK Corral, it would have made a lot more sense because those were usually bars.
Ah, I see.
There were a lot of OK Corrals, but this was the one in Tombstone.
Okay, gotcha.
In that fight with the Cowboys, the Earp family and Doc Holliday killed Tom McLaury, Frank McLaury, and probably the leader of the Cowboys, Billy Clanton.
Yes.
So he was pretty much the leader of them, even though they were just a gang of friends.
Yeah.
But he was pretty much the leader of them. Shortly after that, Virgil was ambushed and seriously wounded by hidden assailants shooting from a second-story window, and this was in December, actually. Even though it was well known who was doing the shooting, no charges were placed against any of the Cowboys. So it was really hard to do anything against the Cowboys because they had a lot of the town folk on their side. On March 18th, 1882, Morgan, was shooting some pool at around 10 p.m. at one of the local saloons, and one of the cowboys shot him in the spine and killed him.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
they took some retribution.
They definitely did. Once again, the assailants were named, but escaped arrest due to legal technicalities. Wyatt Earp, concluding that official justice was out of reach, but with warrants obtained via the U.S. Marshal's Office, led a posse on what would become known as the Earp Vendetta Ride, pursuing and killing 4 of the men that they believed were responsible.
All right.
After that, the Earp family left Tombstone in 1882, and much of the cowboy crime stopped. This is partly due to corrupt lawmen being put back into office.
So they weren't really committing crimes because they just looked the other way.
Yeah,
or
and-
let them do stuff.
And to be fair, they didn't start off corrupt, but after a little while, they started drinking more and just got in with them.
It's just
So,
easier.
yeah. The population spike came to a halt when the pumping station broke and flooded the mines. They didn't think that they could fix the pumps for a reasonable amount of money, and they couldn't replace them.
Okay.
So they were just like, well, whatever.
I guess we're done.
Yeah.
Time to move on.
In 1890, Tombstone would have had only 700 residents.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about boom and bust.
Yeah, today it's got 1,900
Okay.
residents. Yeah. Tombstone would have probably became just another ghost town, but it was the county seat for many years.
Oh, so there had to be some people there.
Yeah, so
Okay.
they, didn't become a ghost town. Then.
Okay.
They didn't vacate it totally. So I'm going to fast forward a lot of years because there's a lot of stories about a lot of different locations. But if we're doing an overview of Tombstone, I
Yeah.
just want to stick to Tombstone, though.
Yeah, of course.
Currently, tourism and Western memorabilia are the main commercial enterprises there. A July 2005 CNN article notes that Tombstone receives approximately 450,000 tourist visitors each year. This is about 300 tourists per year for each permanent resident.
Wow.
So in contrast to its heyday, when it featured saloons open 24 hours and numerous houses of prostitution, Tombstone is now a staid community with few businesses open late. Tombstone and surrounding areas have a variety of lodging options, restaurants, and attractions if you want to visit. I definitely would love to go there.
I would too. I've been to Arizona and I've made it to a few places around, but I have not made it to Tombstone, and it would be amazing. And a lot of the things that are open, as we'll find out as we get into the ghost stories, are places from, the boom time, places that, like you said, I guess maybe because it was the county seat, they did stay around. They may be changed or have been bought by a few people, but they're still there and operating and open, and you can go in and see. And a lot of them have museum pieces, things to show what life was like.
Wyatt Earp's hat?
They do.
Wow.
Yeah.
I will say that looking at a picture from then and then looking at a picture to now, some of the buildings have changed a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, all in all, it looks pretty similar. The street is exactly the same size and everything. It's just...
There's definitely been a lot of historical preservation.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, they take a lot of pride in that because that's where they get a lot of their money is from tourism.
Definitely.
So I would love to visit Tombstone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, bucket list thing. Because I really like gangsters and cowboy stuff like that.
Ah, okay. So it kind of all goes together.
Yeah, like Billy the Kid and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, it's definitely a place where it was almost it was almost cosmopolitan a little bit in its heyday because there was so much going on. And like you said, it was the biggest place between California and St. Louis. And it was written up in newspapers, and it definitely was a place to go.
And that was another one of the problems too, is that they used small Southern town laws instead of using more big league things because they grew. I mean, this is over the course of just a few years.
Right.
So it was difficult for them. Okay, well, we're going to take a break. And then when we return, Rebecca's going to do a little history and do some ghost stories.
Can't wait. Hey listeners, did you know there's a way to share with the world whether you're hashtag team believer or hashtag team skeptic? Or, for those who need it, hashtag team the middle? It's our store called Ghostly Gear.
Yep, and we even have custom ghostly designs like microclimate or even the Easter Island Massacre or of the ghostly logo. Just visit our Ghostly Gear store right on ghostlypodcast.com to order your t-shirt, hoodie, mug, mask, whatever.
Okay. I think we got it. They just need to visit ghostlypodcast.com and click on Ghostly Gear to order right on the website and send us any ideas that you have for new merch.
Exactly. Order your merch today and send us a pic of you in your ghostly gear. It's time for a debate.
Let's do this. Oh, everybody. Again, as I mentioned earlier, there are so many ghost stories in this town. We could do many, many episodes. So I'm just going to say this now. If I don't get to your favorite, if you're someone that knows the Tombstone ghost stories and I don't get to yours or I don't have yours, I'm so sorry. I just had to pick what I could.
They might be in Ghostly X.
And they could be on the Ghostly X episode. So definitely go subscribe, get on that Patreon and listen to it. All right. So we are going to start. We're going to go by location and then kind of do the best that we can at the locations that I picked. Because again, there's more locations. But so the first one is the Birdcage Theater, which I mentioned earlier, right?
Yes,
because that is kind of it's really what seems to be the most haunted.
Okay.
So I just want to talk a little bit about the theater itself. It was in 1882, the New York Times declared that the Birdcage Theater was the, quote, roughest, bawdiest, and most wicked night spot between Basin Street and the Barbary Coast.
Wow.
Yeah. 26 deaths and 140 bullet holes in this place. You can still see them today.
Wow.
It's got gunslingers, gamblers, prostitutes, poker players, and ghosts.
Poltergeist?
Yes.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay. So again, it was everything. As I mentioned earlier, there were these balcony boxes, these cages or whatever that were used by these painted ladies is what they called them. One interesting little fact, and I could go on and on about it. It is the site of the world's longest running poker game for 8 years.
8 years?
Yes.
I've played poker and it feels like 8 years, but it was legitimately 8 years?
That's what was weird is like people would come in and out.
Oh, okay.
But it was like a 24-hour a day thing.
Oh,
it
my
just
God.
kept going. So like all your famous people like Wyatt Earp, everybody, they all played in this game.
Wow.
Like it just kept going.
Probably Doc Holliday, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yes, I'm sure he was there. In fact, I know he was. Okay, so I just wanted to give this one quote and then we'll get into the story, the big story here. In 1882, a journalist named Bernard Sobel interviewed a performer/painted lady named Annie Ashley. She said, quote, earning money was exciting to say the least. Every night, the feudists would come to the theater, sometimes meet each other and shoot it out then and there. The boxes were built in a ring like a horseshoe, and one gang would sit on one side and the other the opposite. As fickle as a barometer was the change in conditions. One morning the feud would be on, then a dead quiet intended to deceive the enemy. Suddenly another feud was on.
Wow.
Like, she sounded like, yeah, it was exciting. Like, that sounds terrifying.
Yeah. Well, back then too, guns were definitely a thing, but they weren't as good as the guns of nowadays, where a lot of times they didn't kill people with them.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Unless they shot him in the head or the chest or something like that.
Right.
But there was a lot of hip injuries and stuff like that.
Still don't want it.
No.
Yeah.
No.
All right. So as I mentioned, 26 people allegedly have died within the building in shootouts, stabbings, a suicide. But the most infamous murder involves a painted lady named Margarita, whose heart was chiseled from her chest with a double-edged stiletto.
Oh.
So it was a woman named Gold Dollar who worked at a rival brothel. Okay. And she was upset because she thought, so where Gold Dollar worked, and we're going to talk about this place coming up, but it was more considered like a proper place. Like it was
proper, like
brothel. Proper ladies there, that kind of thing. Whereas
the high class
people went there, right? Well, she suspected that Margarita at the birdcage was taking her man.
Oh.
Okay. And so she waited until Margarita crawled into her guy's lap, and she felt very slighted, thinking that, she had stolen her customer or her man. So she went and grabbed a handful of Margarita's hair. She stabbed her with the double-edged stiletto stashed in her garter. She hacked at Margarita's heart. Very upsetting, right?
Yeah.
And so then she left. She's like, and then she left. And she fled the scene, right, as soon as the marshal got there. Now, Gold Dollar was also, her name was Little Gertie. She was apprehended, but she didn't have the weapon on her, the stiletto. So here's the thing. You were talking about this earlier. She was not charged with a crime, even though everyone saw her.
So all you had to do is ditch the weapon.
Exactly. They were basically like, there's no evidence. She doesn't have the weapon. And so even though there were people there, like eyewitnesses that could have testified, like as you said, the laws were just weird.
Yeah.
So anyways, so we don't have time to talk about all the ghosts, but Margarita herself is definitely a ghost then. So she was, murdered there. So they do claim to see her, catching glimpses of her. And so there's a writer named Nova Fleury who wrote about her experience there. She said, quote, "I saw an apparition of a young woman who opened the curtain. She was between the ages of 18 and 20. She was leaning on the balustrade, and when she looked at the balustrade, she seemed to say that the place was unoccupied and there was no one in the alcoves. She was only wearing a bloomer, so she stood out." So basically like a naked lady was like, hey, unoccupied, but definitely a ghost, according to this.
Wow, there's
writer.
just so much to digest in this one.
I know. Well, there's only one ghost, though.
That we're talking
about. We're just talking about Margarita, and supposedly she was seen, like at one of the cages, basically, like, someone claims that they saw her waving them in.
Yeah. Well, I will say that there's only 1,900 people that live in this town, and 450,000 people go to visit it each year.
Yes.
I think having a paranormal presence would encourage more people to visit. So I think that they're trying to play this up a little bit.
Okay.
I don't think Margarita herself is there. I'm sorry. I mean, margaritas are good, but especially on a hot day, but I just can't see this happening. This is ridiculous, and you don't have any pictures or any videos of this, do you?
No, I did find a website with some pictures from the theater that were like, again, supposedly pictures of haunted figures, but I didn't necessarily see one of a woman. There's a lot more like orbs and that kind of stuff in the picture. So
orbs,
it wasn't
my favorite.
I just decided to go more with the story. So again, violent death, still there. That's what I say. Yeah,
I'm going to have to say no on this one because there's no pictures to view or anything like that. And, you would think they've done several paranormal investigations there. So
if you listen to Ghostly X, we're going to talk about a botched seance.
Oh, okay, good.
But
good.
But for now, so what's your rating for Margarita here?
I'm going to go 2 on this one.
Okay.
Just because I don't have enough information to go by, but there's only one person that you're quoting to have said this.
Yes.
And so I find it highly unlikely.
Okay. I'm going to give it a 7.
7. Rebecca.
Yes.
Jeez.
All right.
All right.
Okay. So next up, then we're still at the birdcage, so no new history. But there's also supposedly a woman in white.
Oh, of course there is. There's always a woman in white. Always.
Always.
But is it white bloomers?
No. So she's actually identified as the proper lady ghost.
Oh, okay.
So Margarita is kind of like the not so proper lady ghost.
So gold dollar.
No, not gold. No, I mean, they don't know who she is.
Okay.
They don't think it's Gold Dollar. I don't think Gold Dollar herself was a proper lady. She just worked at a proper lady place.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, so she stands out.
Okay.
Right. So one employee says, quote, almost everyone who works here has had an experience with some kind with the, quote, lady in white. I have seen her. She came down the stairwell and into the poker room. She wore a white dress and a white bonnet. She stood in front of me for a very long time without reacting to my presence at all. It's like she didn't even know I was there. She's what they call a residual haunt. No one has ever identified who she is. A bonnet indicates she was a proper lady, and no proper ladies ever came in here. Most of us who work here think she came in with the hearse and is now trapped here. I guess they must have a hearse on display there.
Well, I mean, my first point with this would be I don't believe that residual haunts are actual ghosts.
This is true. This is an ongoing debate.
Yeah.
Pat does not believe that a residual haunt is a ghost.
So residual ghosts are like a memory that's just played out in front of you. And to me, that doesn't mean that there is a spirit there. It means that maybe the walls have captured something or something like that. And I don't necessarily know if I believe in that, but I just definitely don't think that is an actual ghost that haunts something. I know you disagree.
I do.
But like the spirit's not trapped there then.
All right, guys. So go on to Ghostly Society on Facebook or go look at the post Pat's put out there to join our Discord.
Yeah.
And let's have a discussion about this residual haunt ghost thing.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the more intelligent ghost, now those would be like a spirit trap there, right? That would make a lot more sense to me. Residual is like a projection from like a from a projector, going on the wall or something like that. Like I could watch movies that have Robin Williams in it. It doesn't mean Robin Williams is trapped in my movie.
Right, but the movie isn't like being projected from anything.
I know, but I'm just saying this is what it's like.
Okay,
though.
Well, to me, it's a ghost. What's your rating then?
Well, I'm still not done with this one yet.
Oh.
I'm just thinking that every place like this has this, like, all the employees know this story or something like that. I think it's passed on from person to person, and it's a rite of passage to have a story about this.
Okay.
So I believe that this is more made up.
Okay.
So I'm going to go 0 on this one.
Whoa, everybody. He just went 0. All
Yeah.
right. To me, this one is also a 7.
Okay.
Super haunted place. These are just 2 of the stories, and I think they're good ones. Even if it was just these 2.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So we are moving on to Boothill Graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
So some history here. Boothill Cemeteries because there were more. I mean, this was just like a common name for a cemetery. They were named after those buried with their boots on.
It's funny because nowadays people do get buried in their shoes and stuff.
True.
So
That's true. Yeah.
I don't know. Okay.
And Boothill interred outlaws from 1878 to 1884. And some famous people, some names that you've already mentioned are claimed to be buried there. Billy Clanton and Tom and Frank McClory, who were killed by Wyatt Earp.
Okay.
Right? Remember at the OK Corral. So when you go there, there's like tombstones and rocks. You kind of see all of that.
Yeah. And there's like a mound of rocks too, right?
Yeah. It's a mound of rocks. Yeah. So it was originally called Tombstone Cemetery. And this guy, Frederick Bechtold, traveled there in 1919 and changed it to Boothill. I don't know why. So there's not many people buried there because there's other cemeteries in the town. And this wasn't established until 1884, which is kind of like later. But what's interesting is it primarily interred outlaws. So relatives of law-abiding citizens exhumed and reburied their loved ones in this new cemetery that they came along afterwards. So pretty much just the criminals stayed there. So that could be kind of why it has ghosts, I suppose. But one thing I wanted to include though is it is a real cemetery, and there are some really good tombstones and people really buried there, but there's also some things that are made up. Oh. As far as like who's actually buried there, and some of them are definitely like when you look at the that thing of rocks that you talked about, like when you look at that, you're like, come on, like that's not okay. So Lester Moore is an example of one of the fictitious burials. He did die in a shootout. No evidence is there that he actually existed, I guess, or that he was even buried there, or that he was anyway. So there's a thing that says it says, "Here lies Lester Moore, 4 slugs from a 44, no less, no more."
Yeah, I've heard that.
Which I mean, come on, no, that was not a thing. No one. George Johnson is another popular burial in Boothill. Again, another one that may not have existed. His epitaph reads, "Here lies George Johnson, hanged by mistake in 1882. He was right, we was wrong, but we strung him up and now he's gone." This reminds me of like Haunted Mansion at Disney World. I wonder definitely. If they put that in there. Another one is John Heath, accused of organizing the robbery that included the Bisbee Massacre. Although Heath existed, he's buried at the Oakland Cemetery in Corral, Texas. And Federico Duran. Was another misleading memorial. The marker claims that the Sheriff John Slaughter killed him after a train robbery, yet he was executed by a firing squad and he died in Mexico. So he is not buried in Tombstone. So anyways, I just thought that was kind of interesting that there's this cemetery. And again, the people that I named really are buried there, but there's a bunch of people that they kind of beefed it up a little bit. Okay. Let's say that.
So what about the ghost story?
So the ghost story. So people report shadows and lights and spooky sounds, but the main ghost that they mention is Billy Clanton.
Okay.
So he is the popular poltergeist, and he is said to rise from his grave every night and meander through Tombstone, packing his pistol.
Okay.
And that's where we're at with that.
So my argument with this is it wasn't an established cemetery until 1884, which is 2 years after Billy Clanton would have been killed. Right. So, and I've not read anything about him being exhumed and reburied there. So I don't think he's buried there.
Wow. So he could be another fake one, you're saying?
I think they're all fake.
Ooh.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that because I think this is the perfect tourist destination place, right? Wouldn't that be someplace you'd want to see? Yeah. Is where Billy Clanton was buried, and it's just, I don't know. I just think it is one of those kind of things where it's just like a tourist trap and they just have it out there for that.
I mean, I have to say, this is I included this because it was just too important. I felt like to not include it, and he's such a big name. But unlike most of the other ghost stories and haunted places, this one is probably about the weakest.
Yeah.
There's like one more ghost story, but even that is just like, what? Is that even a ghost story?
Yeah.
So,
and I think that people that go there expect to see something, and I'm going to say that they probably see these things at night as well. So they probably don't see it during the day. It could be some kind of optical illusion or something like that, or it just could be that they have this heightened need for there to be something like that.
That could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you giving this?
0.
One? Okay. I'm actually going to give it a 3.
Okay.
Which for me is pretty low, but I'm giving that because the town is haunted and there are spirits that kind of wander around the town. And so it's possible one could wander in that cemetery, but I don't think that Billy Clanton Clanton is rising from his grave every night. Yeah, I didn't see enough for that.
Okay.
All right. Next place is the Crystal Palace Saloon.
Okay.
So it was originally called the Golden Eagle Brewery. Oh, and this is where our killer was from. That's where she?
Oh yeah.
Remember I mentioned that. So,
but yeah, I do know about this brewery.
Yeah, right. Yes. Yeah. Virgil. I'm so glad you talked about him. Virgil Earp had an office upstairs here for a little while. It housed a fountain and goldfish pond. And Doc Holliday and Big Nose Kate were regulars.
Big Nose Kate was his common law marriage wife.
Ah, okay. And she owned some businesses and brothels and stuff around town. So,
well, he had $40,000, which was $1 million. So,
right? Yeah. And it burned to the ground in 1882.
Yes, that's what I remember about it. Actually, there was 2 big fires in Tombstone. I believe this is the second one. The first one was caused by a cigar by a barrel of wine or alcohol. And that caused some damage, but they were able to rebuild. The second one, this one, I believe, caused $500,000 worth of damage.
Wow.
Yeah.
But despite all of the fires and financial setbacks and even prohibition, it's been basically in constant operation since 1879.
Wow. Okay.
So it burned to the ground, but they just rebuilt,
Yeah.
Now it's interesting. So kind of, as we said, saloons in the Wild West kind of had this reputation for being, bad places, right? Like where bad stuff happened, but Crystal Palace was different. Basically it was, considered kind of like a clean place, like it wasn't, it didn't have that bad reputation that, some of the other places did.
Yeah.
So, it's a little weird, but again, this is where Little Gertie was from. So it's not to say that it didn't have like prostitutes or whatever, but it just wasn't like.
But again, that was legal in those days.
Yeah,
too,
exactly.
So.
But they were just cleaner, right? Maybe they took showers. I don't know. All right. So let's talk about the ghosts.
I doubt that they took like daily showers because that wasn't a thing back then. Okay, let's talk about the ghost.
All right. So again, there's just some like, people talk about the sounds of boots and spurs, slamming doors, a roulette wheel that spins by itself, and like some kind of figures that people see. But the big one is of a provocatively dressed woman, usually standing around the bar. And those that claim to see her says she seems to be looking for somebody. She appears and then she vanishes without a trace.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to say that this place is another one of those places that is a known tourist attraction because of its history. And I don't know about the provocatively dressed woman. I think that is all made up just to get more tourists here.
I mean, again, it's the whole town. It's almost everywhere. It's crazy.
But I don't have any details to go off of to say, well, this is what that is and this is what this is. You're talking about an alleged provocatively dressed woman that's at the bar. I have no pictures of her. I have no video of her.
No.
Although I would like to see that. But still, I'm just saying that without anything to go by, it is really difficult to debate this particular kind of topic because I don't know. I need more specs,
Yeah. What do you think about the sounds of boots and spurs?
Oh, I think the boots and spurs are actually like a soundtrack that's played in there.
Oh, that could be.
Yeah.
All right. So what's your rating?
Because I don't know enough about the provocatively dressed woman and I'd like to see her, I'm going to have to go 1 on this one.
Ooh.
Only because I don't have any specifications to debate.
Okay.
You're just talking about...
this is the story.
Yeah. Maybe she's actually a town folk person that just does this. I don't know. That could be her job. I don't know.
But she appears and then disappears.
It's easy to disappear. It's like, hey, look, there's Elvis, and then you walk away.
All right, I give this one a 6.
Okay.
I give this one a 6. Again, lots of things going on. All right, so our last one we're going to talk about in this episode is Schieffelin Hall.
Yeah, named after the founder of the town.
Yes. It is the largest adobe structure still standing in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
It is an opera or was a first-class opera house, offering luxurious alternative to all these ill-reputed establishments like the Birdcage Theater.
Yeah, so this is where all the distinguished people in town would go to.
Yes,
not the people that worked in the mines or the cowboys or the gunmen or outlaws or anything like that. They wouldn't go there.
Right. This is the owners, the rich people. By the 1960s, the hall...
Oh, although in the movie Tombstone, I believe they were in there.
Oh, okay.
At one time.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, and all the cowboys were in there making fun of the people acting and stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense. By the 1960s, the hall was kind of like a shell, but the historic Tombstone adventurers conducted a full restoration. It was constructed in 1881 by the brother of the town's father, Al Schieffelin, meant to appeal to Tombstone's elite. The refined theater accommodated up to 600 people and boasted some of the most decorated performances of the era. It was the, quote, largest, most elaborate theater between El Paso, Texas and San Francisco, California, frequented by the classy rich people, as we said. The second floor housed the King Solomon Lodge, one of the 5 main Masonic lodges in the state. True to Wild West form, Wells Spicer, who famously exonerated the men who instigated the gunfight at the OK Corral, was the first master of the lodge.
Wow, that's funny that it's the King Solomon Lodge, because King Solomon was definitely, if you look at some of the stuff involving him, not outside the Bible, you'd have to read this. Very cryptic person there, I'll say that.
All right. Well, Masonic, all that, spooky stuff going on at the Schieffelin Lodge. That's all I'm saying. All right. So our main ghost here is the woman in red.
Maybe she's just the woman in white and she just changes her outfit.
So, all right. So the woman in red, this is, I have a sighting from a woman named Renee Gardner, who wrote Southern Arizona's Most Haunted. And she mentions that on one particular occasion, a local ghost tour guide went down to the dressing room to investigate the lady in red rumors. She entered the dark dressing room and waited, but nothing appeared. Convinced that she'd wasted her time, she started to walk out. But just as she passed by one of the large mirrors in the room, she saw what was unmistakably the reflection of a woman in a red gown. To validate she wasn't just seeing what she wanted to see, she called one of the building's employees over. By the time the employee reached the dressing room, the woman had vanished.
Okay. Again, no pictures, I'm assuming,
No.
right?
No time for that.
No videos, right?
No.
So it's an author of a book called Southern Arizona's Most Haunted.
Yes, and she interviewed
Interviewed a person that is nameless in this.
Yeah, they're just a local ghost tour guide.
Yeah. Local ghost tour guides would probably want to get their name in these kind of things just to spark up some business, right?
I don't know. She's just telling a story.
And to not have her name in this seems very suspicious to me. I think, I don't know. I would like to talk to Renee Gardner about this, but it sounds like this is made up.
Again, this is just one instance of someone seeing the woman in red. This is not the only one. And there are other ghosts. I mean, it's a theater. We know the theater ghost situation. But this is the big one. This is the most commonly mentioned.
Well, if it is that common and if it happens all the time, you would think we'd have pictures.
Well, maybe. I mean, again, ghosts are not easy to take a picture of.
They're not easy to do anything with. They're not predictable at all.
No.
Obviously, because you can't replicate it at all. I'm sure if I went there, I wouldn't see anything.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to go 0 on this one. I don't know. It just seems like if there was a local ghost tour guide, they'd want to get their name in there. For her not to put the name in there, it seems very suspicious.
All right. For me, this one's a 6.
A 6. Sure. Okay. Yes. So what is your overall rating then?
So my overall rating, this is difficult because again, we couldn't even get to so many things, but
no, you have to go on just what evidence you gave.
I know. So I gave a couple 6s, I gave a 3, and I gave a couple 7s.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go 6.
Okay.
So hard though. I want to go 7.
You want to go 7?
I'm going 7. I don't care. I'm going 7.
You don't care?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm throwing caution to the wind. If I could do 6.5, I would, but I can't.
You can't.
So I'm rounding up.
And you can't do Infinity Plus either.
No, so I'm doing 7. How about you?
All right. Well, I'm going to have to go. I'm going to average out my scores and I'm going to say a 1.
Okay.
Because I did give a 2 in there.
You did for the lady.
Yeah.
Well, they're all ladies, but yeah.
Yeah, just because I don't have enough to go on a lot of these stories are very much just like they have no details in them at all as far as like specifics, like where were they, how were they standing, what did they look like, what did they just don't have all those facts in there. So I'm gonna have to do that. So that brings us to the closing arguments. This is our last chance to convince you to vote our way. We are each given 1 minute of uninterrupted time. We will time each other on our cell phones to keep Rebecca honest.
Hey.
So, Rebecca, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. On your marks, get set, go.
All right. Tombstone is haunted, people. Every place, every business that you look at seems to have stories. And every single place people, tell stories of feeling weird there and seeing things. So we've got everything from the birdcage, which was the kind of, down and dirty brothel place, has ghosts. Then we get to the Shiflin Lodge or Hall, whatever, which was the fancy opera house that was known across the country. Also ghosts. The only place is maybe the weird kind of touristy cemetery that's not so sure about, but otherwise every business, this is a place that had a lot of violence. I mean, we heard about some of the violence today, and we know it was kind of a constant theme.
Oh, you snuck in the
Yeah, it's haunted.
Yeah, because that.
I wasn't watching. I usually watch.
Yeah, you do.
All right. Are you ready then?
I am ready.
Okay. And go.
I find it highly unlikely that there are any ghosts that are related to Tombstone, only because of the 1,900 people with 450,000 visitors here. Everybody wants to do a ghost tour or something like that, so they provide for this. They provide the entertainment value. And therefore, there's not enough details in these stories to base any kind of debate on. So I had to give it a 1 only because of that. But I find this highly, highly unlikely.
That's it?
Yeah, that's all I got. That's all I need.
Wow. All right.
So I want to thank everyone so much for listening. Please share us with your friends and family and even your enemies if you want.
Yeah, anybody.
Yeah, as word of mouth is our best form of advertisement. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. I mean, why
what
wouldn't
are you waiting for?
We have a bunch of VIP patrons that we consider like producers of Ghostly.
Absolutely.
So we're going to name them off.
Alicia,
Carrie,
Becky,
Natalie,
Kim,
Ta,
Ernie,
Marisol,
Shayla,
Cindy,
Kevin,
Nicole,
Darnay,
Jessica,
Alice,
Austin,
Aaron,
Hope,
and Candy.
and this is where we're going to talk about our next episode, which I am super stoked for. Rebecca, we're going to turn the tables.
Oh, yes, we are.
Because we're going to be talking about Roswell.
Yes.
Now, Rebecca does not believe in UFOs.
Yeah, I'm a little more skeptical about UFOs than I am about ghosts.
But I believe in them.
Yes, you do.
And this is like the number 1 biggest UFO story ever.
It is.
It's classic.
It's classic, and we're branching out a little bit to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, we just want to do something fun, and Rebecca always gets to talk about these ghost stories, and people hate on me because I don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to share the hate with you, Rebecca.
So I'm going to do the history, and you're going to do the alien stories.
I'm not going to say that right now. But yeah, so I want to spread the hate, Rebecca.
All right.
So you can get some of the hate on you for not believing in these stories of UFO aliens.
Well, we have talked a little bit about aliens already, so I'm
Yes.
excited to get back to that.
Yeah, that was Skinwalker, right?
Skinwalker Ranch, though they had ghosts as well there.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll find some ghosts in Roswell. I'm not sure yet.
And that episode comes out on September 14th. Until then, stay ghostly.
Bye.